confined to one place for a long time. As humans, we are socially, we need to interact, but unfortunately, the circumstances, that's not possible. So I think I keep myself occupied every day doing some different stuff so that it doesn't feel that I'm missing out on the ground activity. Yes, I have tried to help migrants here in Hyderabad, trying to attach myself to certain campaigns, trying to give them the essential goods. So yeah.
What are you seeing on ground? Like, at least your relief activity started off quite early. In the first wave of that lockdown itself, you were going out, you were helping people. So what were you seeing? Do people understand what the virus is? Do they understand they need to stay safe? You've been telling people multiple number of times to just stay home and just keep themselves safe rather than taking risks and going out. So do you get a sort of a sense of how people in your city understand this virus and what it means?
Well, I think for everybody it was a state of confusion the first few days or first a week or so. Everybody trying to get back to their families, to their place of residence, and a lot of people even now are stuck far away from their family members. Unfortunately, it is quite stressful, and it is very sad to see migrants walking back thousands of kilometers. Unfortunately, we can't do much, but whoever is around, we try and help in whatever capacity that we can, because I genuinely feel that I'm one of those privileged ones who have I'm living with my parents now. I have my family. I'm back home on time. I was in New Zealand, and I was just getting back home. My mom was quite stressed because she just wanted me back home before everything closes down. So I can understand if people are away from the family in such times. And it was a little difficult to try and tell those migrant laborers about the virus and how they need to keep themselves hygienic, work on washing their hands, all those precautionary measures. One is that it is a little difficult to get into their mind because everything is shut. Two is that they are away from their family. So a lot of these thoughts do creep into their minds. And at that point of time, trying to explain something can get a little difficult. But it is something we need to do and stress so that we protect ourselves and people around us and try in whatever little way we can help people of our country. Yeah.
Absolutely. Have you picked up any hobbies or anything?
Well, I do have a hobby of sketching, but not very often I do that because the time doesn't, I don't get much time. That is something now I've started. I started to sketch and paint a little on those old bottles that I have at home. So I have my niece, also my brother's daughter. They moved in just before the lockdown, so I have some company.
Thank God.
Yeah, and so both of us sit during the day and try and paint those bottles. And there were a few paint brushes and old paints which were still left. So I said, might as well put them to use.
Not bad. That's lovely. So now that you spoke about your younger relatives, there's something that I wanted to tell you. When we put out this call that, we're going to have an Instagram live chat with you, there was this young 6-year-old and her father, Tanisha. I think you've met her at Melbourne when the final was happening.
Yeah, I met one young girl, yes.
Yeah, so this is her, and she just sent us this tweet that they had put up at that time of her batting, and her length is perfect. She's being bowled multiple deliveries and she's able to middle the ball so well. And all she wanted to tell you through us is that you've been an inspiration for her, for her parents and that generation. You were sort of one of those women in the forefront who was taking, cricket to another gender group per se, if I can say so. So what she says stands for what a lot of us think as well. You've championed the cause of women's cricket for so long, to the point that now it's become normal. Now we know that our women's cricketers can go around. They're big hitters. They take those fifers, those three-fers. So we've come to expect that as the norm now. But you started at a time when it wasn't. So just take us through your journey. It's been a 2-decade-long journey, Mithali. How has it been? When you look back, does it feel unreal to you sometimes?
It does. Honestly, yes. When people ask me, like, how did you manage to play for, like, good 20 to years, I don't know how I went through these. I think we lost you, or can you hear me? Okay, let me just. Hello? Where the captain has to be reading the situation on the field and make the things go. T20 is very fast paced, so you need to have your backup plans immediately. If one doesn't work, you're quickly into your second plan B. So that's where the support staff comes, and there was a good sync there, which I could sense watching the matches on television. And Shefali is too young for me to even think about her captaincy, because as you also said, she's a 16-year-old, she's a kid.
Yeah.
I mean, you need to really see first how she progresses as a player. I mean, there's still
Absolutely.
good 3-4 years for her to only think of her as a player and as a batter who can be a match winner.
Right. So,
Yeah.
what about her in terms of her technique itself? What do you think Shafali can do a little better as to what you've seen in this tournament and over the last, say, couple of months? What can she
Well,
improve?
Shefali, I don't think she need at this juncture. I think all she needs to do is tweak her temperament a little bit. If we want to see her in the one-day format,
Yeah.
as far as hitting and her technique is, I think it will grow gradually. The more she gets exposed, the more matches she plays, she will naturally work on her technique. I mean, one shouldn't be disturbing that at this point of time. One should only be encouraging her, giving her more confidence, and try to keep the girl more focused during the tournaments, because as young kids it's quite obvious and it is very human to get distracted, because unlike me, when I was 16, I didn't have social media or I didn't have anything, so
Absolutely.
pretty much I knew cricket was everything. But today there's so many things, endorsements, everything, so it is more than ever important to have the right mentor or a parent's influence around the girl.
Correct. Fair enough. All right. So now from here, I think one of the other questions that before I got onto the live video, one of the questions that people wanted us to ask you is, there have been times when, of course, we've had failures, we've had tournaments that have not gone very well, performances that haven't gone very well. So Kalpana and Priya wanted to know, how do you deal with a not so ideal situation? How do you deal with a loss? How do you deal with maybe a not so great performance? How do you handle failure? How do you bring yourself back up again?
I think it's nothing. There's nothing wrong in losing a game, or if somebody is failed in one match, you don't perform. It is very natural, because I truly believe when you fail, only you try and give more importance to the small things that you otherwise overlook when you're
Correct.
doing well. There were times when even I had bad series, and and when you go through a failure, it is very natural that your mind is clouded with a lot of things. Tomorrow's game, tomorrow match I'm going to play, or whether I'm going to be picked for a next series, what my parents would think, what people think, and blah blah blah. But I think when you go through all these phases, there will come a time when your mind is a little quiet. You need to then sit down and think what exactly is your goal, because these failures can be sometimes an experience to teach you that you're missing out on something is not right, so work on it, so you will
Absolutely.
you will succeed. Or it will be something like mental, okay, this is what you need to learn, you need to be more stronger. You have all the skill. As someone who's played for so many years, I've gone through a bad phase in the middle of my career. I know that my skill cannot be taken from me, because I've worked day in day out to master a stroke. It is still there in me. There could be some time that your mind is not in sync with your body. You know,
Correct.
sports is something to do with your mind and body together.
Correct.
It can't be your mind is saying something and your body is doing something. That is when we make mistakes. So it's very important to have that sync going, and that is something as an athlete that I work. Yes, when you fail, you need to get your bearings right first. I mean,
Yes.
what do you want? What you think where you are, and what can be done to get you closer to your goal. I mean, failure and success is an ongoing thing. When you become success, when you get success, there will come a time when you will fail. When you fail, there will come time when you succeed. It's like a loop. It keeps playing. It's never ending. Today I'm playing a sport. Tomorrow it could be in my life. There will be some project which I might not it might not work for me. So it's a constant thing, and one needs to learn that it is a very temporary phase. Even if I
Right.
score 100 today, tomorrow if I get into tomorrow's game, this 100 is of no use for me other than it's a
Absolutely.
stat. It's going to help me in my stats, but otherwise, again, I have to start from ball one to again get to the 100. It's again a hard work. It's a new day. It's a new opponent. So that is something one needs to understand, that there is always a fresh start, but everything which goes up has to come down. Again, it will go up. So.
So I remember when I used to follow cricket back when I was in school, we had this one portion where, the Indian team was not doing very well. And I'm talking about the men's team. They weren't doing very well. And you had these seniors who were there and, people were talking about them going into their retirement. And then Paddy Upton was called on. And you had this mental conditioning coach who came in and he worked with these players.
I have his book right behind.
Yeah, I know. I noticed. The first thing I noticed was all of the books behind you, which I'm going to ask you about in just a minute. But isn't this something that the women can use as well? Like a dedicated sort of like a psychologist or a counselor that just sits you down and figures out where you are mentally before a game.
I think it definitely will work, yes, because now that there is so much of competition and the standard is increasing and at a very rapid pace in women's cricket, there's so much of expectations from people, from administrators, from the brands and viewers for the sport, that a player can go through phases where they are, burdened with or overburdened with pressure of the expectations of performing, and it is just not 1-2 players, sometimes as a team also. So it is there's nothing wrong in having somebody like that dedicated to the team through, and it should not be only during the camp phase. Probably
Absolutely.
the person has to be with the team on a constant basis through all the series, so that he can help you at the time that you really want him.
Mm-hmm. So you guys have also been asking for this for quite a bit. Is that seeing fruition? Are you any close to getting a personnel like this in your support staff?
Well, we did a lot of classes back in NCA when we have these zonal camps and India camps. So we do have sometimes ex-cricketers or people coming and giving us a little bit about educate about mental toughness and how we can go through the pressure. I think that helps in say for a few days or during that tournament. But again, as I mentioned, it has to be a constant thing, because when girls go back or when the girls are on tour, there's a different challenges to what we face in the camp. So if the person is around, it helps. But yes, I think BCCI will definitely look into it once things get sorted.
Settled
I
down.
think. Yeah.
Right. Fair enough. So now from all of these arguments, now to just coronavirus itself. We've spoken about how it's affecting us on a day-to-day level, but let's look at the sport. A lot of us are talking about how this is affecting sport all over the world. Everybody is now stuck at home. Most places, at least most sensible places, are not going out. They're not engaging in anything that's outside because it's a risk. You never know who you're going to infect or what you're going to bring back home. But there are larger questions here as far as sport is concerned. And for the women's sport itself, where we're talking about in several spaces in the world. Now, one of the things that we're discussing is, maybe there was such a momentum for women's sport all over the world, be it football, be it cricket, be it so many other sports, even athletics for that matter. There was such a momentum running into 2020, and this was going to be our year. It was going to be the Olympics, the World Cup. You had so many tournaments. You had the Women's T20 Challenge, and you had the 100, which is, all of it is now postponed to a later date, or it's these people who follow.
Well, see, I think pretty much our daily lives have been affected well on the sport. So I think at this point, if you ask me, it's important that we understand, lives are more important than we can play the sport. I mean, as Olympics has been postponed to next year. So you can always postpone or you can always have it as and when things get better. But I truly believe, I mean, when lives are lost, you can't get them back. So I mean, the current times teaches you that we in the quest of having careers, successful careers, making money and everything, we somewhere have not given the worth of a life. We've not given life its worth. We didn't understand. We probably have forgotten the importance of life or the importance of simple things in our lives. Like today, I'm so happy to have my mother around, my father around, and having food, having shelter, and seeing some stories on social media, on the news, like how people are studying for daily 2 meals. People are walking in hot sun, miles and miles to go to their family. So I've taken all this for granted because I know, okay, they will be there. So in these times, it has taught us that, we need to, give importance or celebrate these small things, because these small things are what makes us, live our life to the fullest. So I feel that, yes, sport will be affected, or right now everything is affected. Leave alone sports, I mean agriculture, everything is transportation, everything is affected. People are being removed from their jobs.
Absolutely.
So in all of this, I think sport is a very small thing.
Absolutely.
It is,
so in this itself, now considering things at some point get back to normal and we come back, we're obviously going to have to take greater precautions. We're going to have to be a little more careful. I know cricket isn't as big a contact sport. The only contact's probably like touching the ball, touching the bat, touching your water bottle.
When two players go under the catch and then when it collide, that is touching.
That is got absolutely. So
when we celebrate taking a wicket, pretty much we'll have to do high five from far away.
Absolutely. But see, that's something you can tell people. I know it's difficult. It's difficult to not go and celebrate and things like that. But how do we deal with the whole, you can't shine the ball? There are going to be those, very strict sort of hygiene protocol in place. So how do you look at that argument that now every cricket board's having to face?
Well, see, probably certain things you need to change a little to consider the situation. In the betterment of everybody, you need to get certain things probably changed a little bit. But until things get to normal situation, I think it's important, if you want sport to at some point you want people to watch the sport, or you want players to get onto the field. Yes, little tweaks you need to do to take that extra precaution.
That's true. All right. So now, if I had to ask you, in the sense that going ahead, at least as far as the next couple of months are concerned, if we're going to stay in lockdown for a while, what do you plan to do now? Aren't you going crazy sitting at home? I know you told us your lockdown routine and all of that, but how do you deal with matches, and how do this whole logistical nightmare of taking a sport forward? If we have to figure it out in, controlled circumstances, how do we do that?
Well, I don't know. I think the administrators are the best people to take call on that. As a player, I would do exactly what we are told to do if ever we start to train and start playing, and hopefully in a situation where it is much better and we don't have to go through all this. But I guess that at some point things will get better, and we get to go onto the ground and train and prepare for the future tournaments. As far as me going crazy, I think because I keep changing my routine every week. So honestly, I mean, I'm not going crazy. I'm happy, in fact, staying at home, doing my training, doing few things at home. But yes, at some point I would want to feel the grass under my feet. I'm running, I'm training. I mean, we are used to that early morning training and that kind of environment at the sunrise, and we are running around, and that academy is filled with people, small kids and everything. Yes, that is something I do miss that every day.
Right, fair enough. So if I don't ask you this, I'll probably like beat myself up over it multiple times. What are you reading? Because I remember we caught up with you about a week ago for World
Yes.
Book Day, and we asked you what you were
Yeah.
reading, and you said you were
I'm
reading
still
something by
reading
Satyajit
that.
Ray. Ah,
No, I finished Satyajit Ray, but I'm reading White Mughals.
okay, that's lovely. How are you liking it?
I think it's very interesting. I'm not somebody into a very intense books because reading is something like I developed on tour just to keep myself in a good space. But I thought, okay, this time at least I'll read something which is very interesting. That is White Mughals, and it gives a lot of inputs about Hyderabad during the Mughal era.
Yes.
Where it also talks about a lot of issues which I thought would be in which was probably in the after we got independence, but it all were already existing before that.
Correct.
And how Golconda Mines was the only sole distributor of diamonds. That is something I was not aware, because we usually if we talk about Mughal era, it is more to do with the North India.
Absolutely.
Delhi and everything, Red Taj Mahal and everything, but very little or seldom I have read about South India in that era. So this book probably is more about that, and it gives a lot of insight about Hyderabad during that time.
Correct. And Dalrymple's a really nice author as well. It's a lovely read, this book itself.
Okay, have you read it?
Yes. His books are like,
Okay.
they were like a staple for me in college. So there was like, you're going to really like the book as you go by. Okay, so that's one. The second thing you're doing in lockdown is you're spending time with your parents. Now, this in a couple of weeks, I think next Sunday, if I'm not wrong, is Mother's Day. So I spend time in lockdown with my mom as well, and we're like at each other's throat because we've grown up like sisters, so we keep arguing and we fight. But then, as you said, we're lucky to have each other during a time like this. So how has it been for you? How has your mom's contribution been for you in your career? And do you have anything to say to her for Mother's Day?
I will not remind her about Mother's Day, because again she goes back to doing that emotional drama about what are you giving me on Mother's Day? What did you do? At least to learn something to cook, because she keeps telling me my best friend is learning cooking she does cooking every day by herself, and she posts on the chat. So my mother's like, look, she's learning, she's doing dessert and everything. What are you doing? So I was like, this lockdown has not inspired me to get into kitchen yet. So please, you only have to cook for me. And in case, and she turns out, she says, what if tomorrow I'm not there or the maid doesn't turn up? Such a situation exists. Who's going to cook? Are you going to go hungry? I said, no, I have my best friend. That is what best friends are for. They will cook for me. Anyway, I think she of course has played a major role, because it wasn't easy for a girl to take up a sport in 90s. I'm sure a lot of people would relate to that, is that it was very difficult. The kind of society, the setup that we have in our society doesn't really encourage young girls to take up a male-dominant sport, especially cricket in our country. Though her dream of me turning into a dancer was something, she wanted me to be a dancer, but since I chose cricket for whatever reasons, she was okay with it, and she never really discouraged me because I chose something which was not of her liking. But she's always there. There were times when she has picked me up from the ground and dropped me, and the timings, the routines, those days were very, very tough on me as a school-going kid. So she was one of those who was doing my homework. During school, I had never done homework in my school days. It was my mother who did all my homework, and she kept it up to date. But she was very particular that I do my studies. Because of her, I've done my graduation also. After 12th, I joined railways, so I was pretty much employed at the age of 18. But she was the one who pursued me to finish my graduation, and in more sense, like, she may not know much about cricket, or she never really followed cricket much. She never watches my game. Anything that I would find myself in the crossroads in terms of decision making in my life, she's one of those who I reach out to get more clarity.